Howdy, howdy, and welcome to Workshop Wednesday. Today is actually 12 hours of fresh breath day. I know you've been waiting for this one all year long. Well, here it is. You can go brush your teeth. The goal is 12 hours of fresh breath. And they actually mentioned in this little holiday, when I was doing my preliminary research for this holiday, they mentioned you should not cheat and chew gum. You should actually brush your teeth and floss, because that is the actual cause of having fresh breath, not just gum and covering stuff up. So there you go. There's your lesson for the day, and happy fresh breath day. 12 hours of fresh breath day. Oddly specific, but I thought metric driven, and that really worked out for today's workshop. Now we're actually going to cover a getting started topic. Remember, we rotate topics every week. This one is for our beginners out there. So getting started, the pillars of measurement marketing, which is something that we've never actually covered under its own workshop. We've mentioned them every workshop, but never actually covered them. So that's why we're going to cover them here and give you a little more detail around those. My name is Chris Mercer. I do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io, where you can find our content on such incredible platforms as Digital Marketer, Conversion XL, Social Media Examiner, Seriously Simple Marketing, and others around the web. All right, now with all of these workshops, including, of course, this one thing is all you're trying to get. Just get one new idea, one concept, one new way of looking at things, especially if you're starting out. This really will help you put everything into context. All right, without further ado, getting started, the pillars of measurement marketing. Now, as a beginner, as somebody who's just starting out, learning this measurement marketing mindset and learning all of your measurement marketing skills, it is so important to put things into context. And that is why we cover these 5 pillars of measurement marketing. We cover these actually each and every workshop. This particular workshop, we're going to go into much greater detail around the 5, which is planning, building, reporting, forecasting, and ultimately optimizing your funnels, your customer journeys. So let's go into the actual details. Pillar number 1, planning, okay? The plan itself. Now, what you want to think about here is which questions do you actually want to answer? And when we say you here, you're either somebody who's an implementer and you are building this out for yourself or for your own company, or maybe you're a strategist, or maybe you're somebody who's working for clients, or you're building it for a stakeholder, your boss, or something like that. So the you here is sort of relative, right? So sometimes it is questions you need to answer. Sometimes it's questions that the stakeholder, the person in charge, needs to answer. Either way, your job is to figure out which questions do you want to answer. And again, that's a fairly simple process. You don't have to overly complicate that. Just going to them saying, hey, what have you always wanted to know about what's going on the website, right? That's all you just start out there. Start out very simple. Then you're going to dive into additional questions that you're going to ask to help build out your plan, including, okay, what information would you need to get in order to get those answers, right? So I need to know how many people are going from point A to point B. Okay, well, what do we need to get that information? We're going to need to know how many people are at point A and how many people are at point B. And then ultimately, we're going to have to divide those out to figure out a conversion rate of some sort, okay? So very simple stuff. Keep it very high level, especially in the beginning. Don't overly complicate it, because it's naturally going to get complicated. That's just how this stuff works. So keep it as high level as you can. Now, thinking through, kind of taking that even further, where is this information going to come from? Okay, so in this case, you might say, well, we're going to pull the unique page views in analytics for point A, our lander, and point B, the cart, right? Maybe something like that. But now you know, okay, cool, I'm going to get this from Google Analytics. How should those answers be displayed? Now, this is where in the very beginning here, before you start doing any sort of real work and build stuff out and storing it and everything else, your job is to think about, okay, what is the end result of all of this? How should this be displayed? Well, I would really like it displayed in maybe kind of a graphic funnel that shows me step 1 and then the step 2, and I want to be able to see a conversion rate in the middle between that and maybe like the end results, so you're already starting to build out what the report looks like. Sometimes that answer may not be a graphic funnel. It might be, well, I just want to see it in a spreadsheet with a table, and that's the person that you're talking to, or maybe that's what you want as you're generating all of these. But how should these answers be displayed? And this is the most important question out of this entire stage of planning. What actions will you take? Remember, the you is relative here. It's either you if you're doing it or somebody else. What actions will you take based on the answers that you get? Okay, what actions will you take based on the answers that you get? Super important here. I have worked with numerous clients who have decided I need to know this question, and I want to get the answer, and I'm going to get the answer from this place, and this information is going to come from this particular platform, and I want to display it in this sort of format. And then we come to this question of, cool, what actions are you going to take once you get those answers? And inevitably, you sort of get this blank stare on some of this. because that's where they go, wow, I'm not really sure what that will tell me. I don't know how that's going to actually go to an actual action, an actual marketing action. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't know that I actually have enough information to actually take an action. And that's totally normal. Like, that's going to happen. And so that's how you know you then need to go back to this first question and say, okay, cool, let's ask a better question. What are we really trying to achieve here? What question do we really want to try to answer? Okay, what information do we need? Where we get the information from? How should this answer be displayed? Okay, assuming it's displayed that way, what actions are you going to take? And if they come up with an answer of, or if you can come up with an answer of, yes, I'm going to turn up my Facebook campaign, turn off my Facebook campaign, or I'm going to adjust my cart or not adjust my cart, or that'll tell me to change the copy or change the offer versus maybe the headline. But if you can relate it to an action, that's how you know it's a good quality question. And that's why I say, don't worry about the questions in the beginning, what they are, get them all out. Running through this process will give you the actual filter to help make sure that you're actually just working on getting information and answers for questions that are really, really going to be useful, right? You want questions that will lead to answers that will ultimately lead to action. And that's the planning in a nutshell. Now, the second pillar is building. And once you've got your plan set out, you want to move into the building stages. And the building stages comes to two things: collection and storage. That's really all we're talking about here. Collection of the information, storage of the information. So, as an example, a perfect collection mechanism is Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is perfect when it comes to collecting information because it is made to be able to be witness to all of the incredible behaviors that your users are taking on your site. And it can, based upon how you train it, it can actually start sending all that information, in this case, maybe to something like Google Analytics for storage. So you've got Google Tag Manager, and then all the information is being sent to Google Analytics for storage. What pages did they see? What products did they buy? What buttons did they click on? All of that fun stuff. All goes to GA. So Google Tag Manager collects it and then sends it to Google Analytics for storage. But it's not just that. It could be Google Tag Manager and Facebook. Because think about Facebook ads or even Facebook Analytics. Google Tag Manager, while it's also sending stuff to Google Analytics, can also send stuff to Facebook and make sure that Facebook ads has what it needs. Could also be Google Tag Manager and Google Ads. Don't forget about Google Ads. If you're doing any sort of Google Ads work, you can now send it to Google Analytics. You send it over to Facebook for the Facebook ad stuff. You send it over to Google Ads, right? And if you see a pattern here, it's that it's always Google Tag Manager, because in our humble opinion, Google Tag Manager is the premier tool for this. And if you're not using it, you really are not maximizing your marketing. So really, really look at upgrading your tool set into using Google Tag Manager if you are not yet already. And then understand there are other platforms and tools. So in addition, it's not that you just pick one, right? You just want to collect and store. It doesn't mean you just picked one particular storage device. You can store it in Analytics. You can store it in Facebook. You can store it in Google Ads. You can store it in PayPal. You can store it in Infusionsoft if you're using Infusionsoft tracking. You can store it in Clicky and Pickwick and those other places that you can use for storage. There's lots of different tools. There's Hotjar, right? Lots of different tools that will help you to store things. Tag Manager, though, is at the center of them all. And so your main job as a builder at this stage, in this second pillar here, you're saying Google Tag Manager to collect, and then I send it to all the different platforms for storage, all the other platforms and tools that I'm using for storage. Now, once it's in there, that's when you move to pillar number 3, which is the reporting. So now you've got all of the plan done. You actually did the build out, and you've got all the information that you needed to come in, and you now know, based upon your plan, what information you needed to track. So you've got all the information being collected and then being stored in the proper platforms. That's where the reporting comes in. So the reporting, your job is to transform information into answers. That's it. That's what your reports need to do. Do you have a good report? This is how you know. You go, is this transforming the information that I have collected and stored into answers? And remember, those answers should be able to be taken action on. They should intrinsically provide action. That's what their whole point of this was in the planning phase, is to say, what are you going to do with these answers? What would these answers allow you? What actions will these answers allow you to take? So transform information into answers. And when you do that, you actually have an incredibly useful report, a report you will actually use. Now, what does that report look like? Well, that really depends. You could use Google Analytics built-in reports, like the Source Medium report, I think, is a perfect report that gives you lots of that. right? Answers that you can actually use, and it takes all this information and very quickly transforms it into answers that you can use to take action. You could do Facebook Ads Manager, depending upon the questions that you're asking. Facebook Ads Manager, built-in reports, or some customized reports back there. Speaking of custom reports, Google Analytics has a whole slew of customization that you can do with its custom reports. You've got Facebook Analytics funnels maybe that you're using if you're in the back end of Facebook Analytics and want to build out some sales funnels to get some answers. But all of these different things can only provide this if you are actually able to get the information stored in the first place, right? So you can see how everything sort of builds on each other. First, you make a good plan, then you do a good build, then you work on the reporting to make sure all that information that you're working on in the building stage is transformed into answers. You could use spreadsheets, right? Google Sheets, something like that, also to provide tables. Google Ads reports could be used for this. And of course, Google Data Studio. And if I had to say, and there's lots of other platforms that you could use, but hopefully you get the idea that it's really not dependent upon the platform, quote unquote, the tool that you're using to build a report. Because again, spreadsheets are a perfectly fine way of doing this. And as long as they are providing answers, not just information. If all your report does is provide information, whether it's to yourself or to your team or to your stakeholders or your boss or your clients, if it just provides information, it's going to be not useful, because it's going to require thinking. And then you have all these dashboards, and maybe you've run into this before, where you have all these dashboards that provide all this great information, but nobody really uses them because nobody knows what to do with them. Nobody knows what they actually mean or what they're telling them to do. And so you really, really need to focus time on building a proper report that transforms information into answers. That's what makes you a good measurement marketer, is being able to transform information into answers so that the person that's using the report, again, maybe you, maybe your clients, can actually take action based on those answers. Now, we recommend using Google Data Studio or an equivalent, mostly because it helps you start with a nice blank slate, and it gives you a very simple, easy way to connect all of these different data sources like Facebook or Google or spreadsheets or Google Analytics or Google Ads or YouTube or Search Console, whatever you want. All those different data sources can come into Data Studio, and you can build very specific reports that give you very specific answers so that you can take very specific actions. And again, that's what makes the report useful. That's what separates out the reports you will build as a measurement marketer versus all the other reports that you've ever run into, because they're all information-based. Nice, pretty pictures and bar charts and line charts and graphs and moving diagrams, and nobody knows what to do with them because it's a ton of information, not answers. And your job is, again, to transform all of this information which you have collected and stored based upon the plan that you created in the first place, all the information that you've collected and stored, transforming it into answers. Again, I would say Data Studio is my preferred tool of choice. It's free. It's amazing. They're constantly making it better and better. So take a look at it. But there are equivalent tools out there, most of them paid, but there are equivalent tools out there you can take a look and use as well. The goal is to make some sort of dashboard-like, very simple to understand and read report that transforms information into answers. And then once you have that, so we've got our plan, we've got our build, we've got the report done, now you move into forecasting. And this is where you're actually taking that report based on the benchmarks that report is giving you. So now you know that the average conversion rate from a lander to a cart is, for you, maybe 10%. And the average abandonment rate that you have is maybe 65% abandonment rate. So once you know all of these different benchmarks, you can actually then begin to start mapping out expectations. That's forecasting. It maps out expectations. And this is where you start saying, okay, not only we're going to make $10,000 next week, but we're going to make $10,000 next week off of this Facebook campaign. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to send 100,000 impressions out to Facebook. Of those, 1% are going to click through. Of those, 10% are go to the cart. Of those, X amount are going to make it through the cart. Of those, X amount are going to take the upsells for an average order volume of whatever. And, this is how much money we're going to make. And you can figure out all this stuff in advance. Doesn't mean you have to be right. Don't worry about being right. Worry about forecasting it, though. You must forecast it. You got to put yourself on the line. Forecasting does that. Forecasting forces you to pay attention to what's going on. It forces you to make sure that you're measuring each and every one of these steps. And forecasting describes both the results, right? We're going to make $10,000 next week, but it also describes the how, the plan. It maps out the expectations that you're going to be going through for this process. And it's based on the reports. So you have to have the reports done first before you can begin forecasting, because the reports are what give you the answers. The reports are what are telling you, hey, here are the results, and here's how you're achieving those results. right? So once you have all of that as a good benchmark, then you start to forecast. You say, cool, here's what I think based on our previous Facebook experience. Here's what I think this Facebook traffic source is going to do next week. And then you might say, oh, well, here I've got a bunch of affiliate mailings coming up. Here's what I think this next affiliate is going to be doing based on what their previous results were, right? And again, if you don't know, maybe if it's a new traffic source, maybe you can ultimately, based on other types of responses that you have, you can start to sort of guesstimate a little bit. But the goal is you've got to put yourself on the line, forecast out these different stages, and then most importantly, because this is really the ultimate action from a measurement marketer perspective, because you got this marketing thing, most importantly, begin to optimize. That is where you compare your forecasts against real world traffic results. Compare your forecasts against real world traffic results. So you've got your forecast, and you can make that part of your report. You might have a nice data studio report that's got a little visual of your funnel diagram and all the different conversion points between those. And then you've got, here's what your forecast was for those different conversion points. And then very quickly you can start looking, okay, let's go ahead and send all that Facebook traffic. And now you send Facebook traffic, and it's maybe Tuesday, you're partway through the week, and you see everything's working just fine, except your Facebook traffic, you only have 1,000 impressions because you just can't get the traffic to scale with Facebook. Maybe that's where the block is. Or maybe you thought 10% of the people were going to go to the cart, and it turns out only 2% of the people are going to the cart. Well, you have an issue there that you've got to adjust something. Maybe it's in the targeting of the Facebook end, or maybe it's on the lander, but they're just not making it to the cart. Or maybe they are making it to the cart, but they're not completing. Or maybe they are completing the cart, but they're not buying as much as you thought they were. But either way, comparing your forecast against real world results, and you're measuring, so because you're measuring all these different stages and steps, you're measuring the how that you're achieving these results. Because you have all of that, you can ask such a much more intelligent questions around what do you need to focus on, because this thing will light up and it's going to tell you, hey, this is the part where everything's falling apart. Right? This is the part where they're not making it through the cart. So let's start focusing on there. Or they're not making it, you're not getting enough ads served. They're making it through the funnel just fine, but you're just not getting enough people in the funnel, right? Or maybe you are getting people almost all the way through, but they're buying, but they're not buying the right things, right? All of that different stuff it gives you clues as to what you need to adjust, what you need to optimize in order to begin improving results. That's what you're asking. What's not meeting expectations? Where is the breakdown happening? What am I not hitting right? Right? That's what the optimizing part is all about. And again, the goal, be able to ask that question, see it in your reports because you're comparing your actuals to what you forecasted, and then take action to improve that metric. And it's going to be right around that step, right? Either in the step itself. So an example of a cart not working, it's either because of the lander, something on the lander probably, or something in the cart itself. But at least it tells you where to look. Right? At least you know the general area that you need to focus on. It's not going to tell you specifically, oh, go change your headline, but it will at least give you an idea of the direction that you need to start looking so you can improve the metric that just isn't living up to expectation. Now, what if everything's working? Great. If you've got 100,000 impressions, everything worked exactly like you thought it was going to, well, that's time to now let's scale up to 200,000, up to 1 million impressions. Let's try to create other funnels for our clients or customers and expand out that way, right? And more of a lateral move, because you don't need to optimize anything in this particular funnel if you've already maxed out everything. Like, that's great, right? So it can be that everything's working as expected, as you forecasted. Then it's just time to expand other traffic sources, right? As an example. Okay. So in summary, the 5 pillars of measurement marketing: the plan, the build, the reports probably, the forecast. And again, you can make your forecast part of your report. So it's on there, easy. And then once you have your forecast, you measure against your forecast, that will tell you where to optimize. And each one of these builds upon the other and then sort of wraps around itself. So in the optimization stage, when you're ready to optimize, right, you got to go through the plan. Okay, what are we trying to see? We're trying to make this happen. How are we going to make that happen? Okay, great. Do we have all the, we're doing a split test maybe. Maybe that's going to be your plan, is to split test that stuff out. Got to make sure you measure all of those. We want to be able to ask the question of which split test is better. So we got to make sure the measurements are in place to know if it's the control or the variation that's getting me the result that I want. I got to make sure the build is in place. So I'm measuring all of that. I'm going to build a report or use a software that's got a report built in so I can get those answers. I'm going to forecast what my results are of that split test, and then I'm going to measure against it so I can optimize and continue to repeat the cycle. So again, the 5 post-measurement marketing: planning, building, reporting, forecasting, and optimizing. Now, what was your one thing? Hopefully, as a beginner, you just being introduced to the 5 pillars is at least helpful to put the stuff into context, because it's tough to use Tag Manager and analytics and Facebook Analytics and Data Studio and all of the different tools, Google Sheets. I mean, the mind boggles at all the stuff that goes on that is available to us as measurement marketers. Putting it into a framework, into a context, makes it more useful. So that's what the 5 pillars are designed for, and hopefully that was your one thing, or at least even if you kind of do these steps, maybe you're hearing it in a different way, or understand that you're hitting maybe some of the pillars, but not all of them might be your one thing. Either way, if you are ready for a better way to know your numbers, I do invite you to join the Measurement Marketing Academy at measure.tips/start. We'll take you there to give you a little more details around that program. It is massive. It is definitely made for implementers and strategists. We do different live workshops in there every single week. We've got live group calls in there every single week. We've got a library of workshops. There's like 150 different lessons in there right now, so there's a ton of that. Ask an Instructor private one-on-one support that you have the option for. So lots and lots of stuff back there. It is an amazing program. One-off individual courses to learn all these different tools. Like, there's a ton back there. Measure.tips/start will actually give you all of the basics. Now, if you are already an Academy member, of course, I thank you for that. And every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, we have Academy office hours. It's the members only Q&A. So everybody that isn't an Academy member gets to jump on that. It's a group coaching call. It's kind of like a little mini mastermind every single week, which I love. So some beginners, some more advanced, a combination of both normally. So definitely invite you to join. And as an Academy member, if you're listening to this or watching this and you have a question, that is your chance to jump on there and sort of talk it out and share screens and work through whatever the questions are, even if it's just to get a kind of a fresh pair of eyes, or maybe stay out of fly on the wall, just to sort of see what other people are saying and make sure you're taking full advantage of everything that measurement marketing can do for you. So that's Academy members, the office hours member Q&A every Wednesday, 3:30 Eastern. All right, next week's topic, we're going to go a little bit more advanced. So remember, we rotate topics every week. So this week was for the beginners. Next week is for our more advanced implementers. This one is custom tracking of original traffic sources in Google Analytics. Because in Google Analytics, believe it or not, in the standard reports, you actually cannot really easily pull the original traffic source. It'll always pull like the last known traffic source, but it won't really pull the original one for that user. So there's a little custom stuff that you can do, and we're going to show you how to do all of that. So it's definitely more advanced. It's a custom setup, but I want to show you that stuff, and we'll be doing that next week on the next Workshop Wednesday. Speaking of, if you are not yet a member of Workshop Wednesday, member.tips/WW. It's completely free to join, measure.tips/WW. And it's important because not all of these workshops do we make public. We do them every single week. And as a Workshop Wednesday member, which again is currently free, you do have access to those. So, but you have to be a member in order to see them all. So measure.tips/WW will get you details on Workshop Wednesday so that you can join all of these. And with that, we will go ahead and bring it to a close. This has been Getting Started, the Pillars of Measurement Marketing. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we'll see you on another one soon. Take care.